bombing bridges and power plants would be a violation of international law. But you, from a defense standpoint, are saying that can actually win wars. Iran's deputy sports minister has called on Iranian people to form human chains at power plants across the country ahead of the U.S. president's Tuesday night deadline. That's Tuesday night U.S. time. Ali Reza Rahimi says that he invites all young people as well as artists and athletes to gather at power plants across the country on Tuesday at 2 p.m. local time. He calls on people to deliver the message that attacking public infrastructure is a war crime. And a prominent Iranian musician has announced that he will be staying at one of Iran's power plants to deter potential attacks on critical infrastructure. Ali Ramsari says that he will be at the Damavand power plant, which supplies roughly half of Tehran's electricity needs. He says that he plans to stay there in seclusion, spending his time making music. Joining us in the studio in Doha is Mohanad Saloom, Assistant Professor of International Politics and Security at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. Mohanad, good to have you back in the studio. Donald Trump's and the Pentagon's theory seems to be that if they can hit Iran hard enough, bomb them enough for long enough, then Iran will change its behavior. The government and defense establishment will give the U.S. what it wants. It hasn't worked so far in the last 5 weeks. Can it work if the U.S. takes this next step of bombing Iran's power plants?
Potentially, yes. We have comparative cases, Iraq in 1991, Iraq in 2003. Also, the U.S. has the upper hand so far in the military campaign. They have been delivering on their targets. And Iran, after all, does not have any regional or international allies. And it has been under severe embargo.
It has regional allies?
It does not.
Hezbollah?
Well, Hezbollah is really fighting for its survival in Lebanon.
Hezbollah, Houthis, militias in Iraq? It's part of their network. They rely on it.
They are, but they are not really supporting Iran as much as one would expect.
Okay.
So if you look at Lebanon, for example, and Hezbollah in Lebanon, it is fighting for its survival.
Yeah.
Basically, even if it is hitting Israel every now and again, they're not really hurting Israel as much. What they're trying to say is to send a message to Beirut, to the government, that we are still there, we're still powerful, and we need to be taken seriously because they're under immense pressure from the Lebanese government to disarm, and I think they have been banned legally from using arms outside the authorization of the government. So they're fighting their own fight. And if you look at the Houthis, they have not been activated yet. I don't know if they would.
They've launched missiles at Israel, which have been intercepted, granted, but they have launched missiles at Israel.
But if we compare to June 2025, the numbers are really like 10% or something. And if you look at the militias in Iraq, who they are hitting, they're hitting Iraqi targets.
Let's pause this because I want to get you back to the original question. I understand your point. I was just pointing out for our viewers that there are non-state armed actors in the region that are allied to Iran. But I want to table that because right now we're under a deadline. And my question to you was, do you think Iran can be compelled to change its behavior? Do you think there can be an inflection point in this conflict if the U.S. escalates by bombing, as they've threatened to do, power plants and bridges? And you're saying maybe.
Well, there might be, but this depends also on the rational actor in Tehran. We don't know who is leading Iran now. The supreme leader has not made any kind of public appearance, and the former supreme leader has been killed. The first, second, and third line of leadership have been assassinated, or by large have been assassinated.
To no effect so far.
Well, not to no effect. There is a collapse in command and control in Iran. I mean, we don't know.
But that's what I'm getting at. How do you see this? Because, look, I'm not a military expert. You're the defense expert. So I'm interested in your answer on this. But from the outside looking in, for a layman, and I think many viewers will be asking themselves the same questions, Iran has not collapsed. Iran is still launching missiles. Iran is still launching drones. And Iran is not bending and accepting U.S. terms. So there is no outside signal to non-experts that Iran is changing its behavior or its thinking in any way.
Great. So because everything is relative, Iran is a massive country with 90+ million population. It has a massive geography as well, and it has been preparing itself for this war for a long time. But on the ground, what we are looking at here is a country that is being weakened every day. And let's not forget that 5 weeks feel forever for us, but in terms of war, it's not long enough. And the U.S. is going steadily in the direction of degrading Iranian capabilities. And we can see that as well. Iran has not, I mean, if you compare to 2 weeks ago, not 5 weeks ago, Iran does not retain the same capabilities. They are still having a credible threat in terms of launching missiles, in terms of holding the Strait of Hormuz, but they're not really acting coherently. And maybe to prove that, or the evidence to that, if you see who is leading Iran now, is it the president? Because, when we look at command and
control... Even before the war, I think the consensus was that the president is not a powerful figure in Iran, certainly this president.
Well, they were not only this president, the whole government now is not public facing. They're not talking to the world. And the foreign minister is basically, he's in the middle now, and he's the one who's outspoken. The president is really, we don't know where he is. And the supreme leader is not leading. So IRGC is leading this war, and they are trying to say that we are, steadfast, we will be fighting this to the end. And this maybe goes back to my rational word. Basically, is there a rational actor in Tehran now? Because the continuation of the war is obviously not in Iran's interest, and I think the signals are coming from the region as well. Last night, the foreign minister and the prime minister of Qatar contacted the foreign minister of Iran, saying that where this is going, we don't want this to get out of hand, because if Iran going suicidal with this, then the country would collapse, and this is in nobody's interest. And people might talk about whether it's right or wrong, war crimes or not, to target civilian infrastructure. But that's not the first time. We saw this in 1991. It was effective. We saw this in 2003, and it was effective. Effective militarily. That is moral or not. I think that's a different
You're raising
discussion.
a very interesting question. By the way, the spokesperson of the UN Secretary General has said without a doubt that bombing bridges and power plants would be a violation of international law. But you, from a defense standpoint, are saying that can actually win wars. That's the reality of the situation we're facing. Mohammed Saloom, thank you very much.